what's up, y'all? This is Corporal Church from Operation Defender. Today we're going to be kind of talking about maybe you might have a loved one or someone that you care about that is either joining the military or wants to join. So we're going to talk about like maybe questions you could suggest this loved one of yours ask their recruiter, or perhaps that you could ask if you are in a position where you're seeing a recruiter with them, as well as trying to just address kind of broadly concerns that I have had people express to me when I was in high school, and then some from now as I'm 27 and going back in as an officer, which I've signed things, so woo! That was a big hurdle, but that's one to brag. I'm really excited that I managed to pull that all off. Now, before we get on into it, if you are new to the channel, which seems likely considering this channel is basically a baby, we cover veteran stuff, military questions, spins on what's going on in the world. I have a lot of hopes, but my main goal is to give a better understanding of the military and veteran community to those that are wanting to learn more information, and to try and give those service members and veterans a channel and a community to be a part of. Speaking of which, I have a Discord server. It's called Operation Defender, like the channel name. There's a link down below. If you are a service member or a veteran, you are encouraged to join. If you are not, please don't join. As of now, this server is set up for being service member and veterans only. And if you'd like to know more about why, I believe I talked about it in my Welcome to Operation Defender video, the very first video I put up. Just broad strokes, it's meant to be a safe place for folks that have these similar experiences to come together and help each other out. And I wanted to keep a lot of anonymity to it. So anyways, alright, back to the main topic of the video. So we're going to talk about a couple of questions you might want to ask your recruiter, or maybe ask your loved one if they know, because then maybe they can find out. One would be, what direct training does that MOS, Military Occupation Specialty, give you for a job in the civilian world? One common kind of vibe I got from a lot of people, and there's a pretty common joke I see, is that service veterans are just going to leave the military and be a homeless man living in a van down by the river. And well, that does happen to some people. There are questions and things you can do during your enlistment or career to help avoid that from being as likely, and I would argue for most people it's really, really unlikely. Those are just some very extreme folks, and they can, fortunately, people notice that, and so that becomes a stereotype. So ask your recruiter, what exact jobs in the civilian world does this MOS prepare me for? I would suggest trying to get into careers that are mechanical, like tank mechanic. You've got just like motor T, which has a lot to deal with it's motorized transportation. So they do a lot of fixing of cars and like just supply routes and stuff like that. I'm not a motor T guy, so if someone's watching this motor T and wants to give more specifics, please comment that down below. You've got Combat Corps of Engineers, which is all about like building stuff and being really creative. Then there's a newer MOS called Cybersecurity. A friend of mine just got that selected to be a cybersecurity officer. So if there's enough interest, maybe I'll ask him if he can share anything about what that job entails. But I know that would have a lot of specific civilian applications. There's also intelligence jobs. And one of the perks of things like cybersecurity and intelligence jobs on the civilian side is they really like hiring veterans, from my research. The main reason is because you have to get a security clearance in order to do that job, either in the military or as a civilian. And usually those security clearances are very expensive for companies to sponsor someone through, and they can take quite a bit of time. Whereas if you got those clearances while you're in the military, you save that company lots of time and money, and it's a lot quicker to hire you on, and you have the job experience to boot, as well as saving them all of that time and money with the clearance. So if you have a high enough ASVAB score, which is the military's basically ACT test, you're able to get into those careers, and I would highly suggest you do something like that. Aviation is also a really good way to go. I have a friend, he is contracted to be an aviation pilot. He has finished a lot of the training other than flight school, and he said that they're having a lot of pilot turnover because their pilots are getting offers from commercial airlines like, hey, we'll pay you $250,000 a year to fly our plane instead of that F-18. And a lot of folks are taking it. So there's tons of career options. And I think a lot of people don't really know about this, because one common theme I heard and felt was you can't have a career in the military. Like, if you join the military, you're screwed. Like, you're going to be an alcoholic, you're going to be hooked on drugs, or you're going to be living in a van down by the river, or some combination of those three. And the military is completely a viable career option. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the benefits and perks and stuff, because those are definitely things you should be asking questions to your recruiters about. So we kind of covered the whole job training aspect of things. As far as the career viability goes, we need to be having schools, we should be having schools or whoever, pushing out that the career in the military is just as viable as going to college and hoping for a career, or going to a trade school or one of those community colleges or something. Because the people aren't. Most folks kind of seem to be like the military is the last resort, and it's like a bad way to go, which makes no sense to me. Some of it has to do with political kinds of stigma. Like, when I got out of the Marines and I went home, I did some stuff. I volunteered at the high school I went to, and I bumped into some people I went to high school with, and a couple called me a baby killer. So, that wasn't me at all, but that kind of plays into a stereotype that was the next thing I wanted to address, which is war. A lot of people assume you're all going to die if you go to join the military. I mean, it is an unfortunate side effect of war, and it can happen. I know our country, until I guess perhaps today, today is February 29th. I just saw an article saying that America and the Taliban agreed to a peace deal, and the U.S. will be all the way out of the Middle East completely within 14 months. So maybe we're not at war anymore. I'm not completely sure on that. But in the past, people just assumed you're going to join, then you're going to die. And there's so few deaths. I don't know the exact number. It's something like, it was definitely less than 10,000 killed since 1999. And I want to say it was more like less than 6,000. I'm just kind of over-guessing because it's off the top of my head. So that way, if someone wants to be really nitpicky, they won't get too upset. But yeah, it's you're very unlikely to die in the military, especially if you compare it to the number of car accidents or car fatalities that happen. You're way more likely to die going to work than you are in the war zone with the current conflict that has been going on. In fact, I have friends that deployed and didn't see any action. There you go. So you probably won't have to worry about your loved one dying in the military. And then depending upon the job they pick, if that is a big concern of theirs, you can totally find jobs that will take you out of any kind of a combat arena. So there you go. There's that. There's some talking about combat and that whole stereotype. And then other people who are like, well, if you join, you're going to get really messed up in the head. Now, some Marines just like to argue, well, I mean, if you want to join the Marines, you're already a little messed up in the head, so whatever. But I would argue more of the mental health stuff comes from command, very specific, low-level command things. There are obviously exceptions such as war and tragic events, but I think a lot of people just assume if you join the military, you're going to have PTSD. I've been dealing with that when I was trying to get hired for police departments and stuff. People just assume I must be crazy and have PTSD because I was in the military. And that's not a given. That's not a given thing either. So that was more for informational for you that are thinking about joining. I would not suggest asking your recruiter, am I going to get PTSD? Because they can't really answer that, because it depends on the person and their experience and what they go through while they are in. Something that's a pro with the military would be, career-wise, would be promotions. In the civilian world, I have yet to have a clear understanding beyond slight scheduled pay raises every year when I could get a promotion. It's man, I can't even figure out who's in charge of who. It's, good Lord, most of the time it's just confusing as heck. Military, cut and dry. We're not going to get too much into the details because that could be a whole other video. But basically, the longer you're in and the longer you're in the rank, the more points you earn. Earn enough points, you get the next rank. If you're really good at your job, you might not have to wait as long as other folks and get the cut in line and get a promotion early. There you go. That's kind of like a rundown of how promotions work. Everyone knows how they work. And it's very easy to try and do extra things to make yourself more likely to get promoted. So there you go. Like, that's a huge plus for me. Because with more promotions comes more responsibility and more money. Which is a great segue into the financial benefits of the military. So granted, the monthly pay is not great. The monthly pay, especially when you're a brand new private, you're E1, the pay is not amazing. And it'd be moderately easy to find a civilian job with similar pay. If you look at just what you get into your bank account. Let's look at all the other stuff that totals actually quite a bit of money, you just don't see it in your bank account. Probably the most prominent one is medical. Medical is free. I didn't have to pay for a single doctor's visit, a single pill, a single sickness out of my own pocket. To my understanding, even extreme things like pregnancy are all completely covered by the military as long as the person that is pregnant is either a service member or a dependent. As long as you are one of those things, you are 100% covered. If I am wrong and there is some kind of a financial cap, let me know. But to my understanding, every medical thing is covered 100%. You don't have to pay a dime for it. And then depending upon disabilities and stuff, for injuries and things when you get out, those things can be covered for life. So like say you busted your shoulder and you get rated, I don't know, 20% disability for a busted shoulder. Then your whole life, you would get money into your bank account because of that injury. And if you had other issues, like say you woke up and like, oh, this doesn't feel good, like something's wrong, you could go see a doc and they won't charge you for it because it's for a disability that you acquired while you were serving. Which is a huge advantage. No other employer does that. Like when you leave, like if I left my job that I have now, I can't go back to them and be like, hey, so something's hurting, you gotta pay for it. I'm like, no, that's not our. Sucks to be you, I guess. So that'd probably be their answer. So that's a huge medical advantage with the military. Something else is you get paid more money for being married and for having kids. The most notable thing when you get married, with the exception of 01 on up, you now don't have to live in the barracks, and you get some money to pay for whatever housing you choose to live in. If you want to use, say you get $1,300, you can maybe find an apartment for $600, and you still get to keep the remaining $700 to use however you please. You just get that money available to you to use for housing. So that is fantastic. Then if you have kids, you get more money. To some degree, there are some rank restrictions and stuff that would let you live and get BAH without being married. But just general rule of thumb, get married, you get more money. Have kids, you get some more money. And there is some cap. Like if you have like 12 kids, I don't think they pay you more money for each of those 12 kids. I think it caps out after a certain number of kids. But I don't know what it is because I don't have kids. So I never really cared to look it up. I think it's something like 3 to 5. But if you know for sure what it is, please let me know down below and help educate all of us a little bit more together. Alright, we're going to try to wrap this up and just really, military is a great option. VA, the Veterans Affairs, medical stuff gets tons and tons of heat. Yes, they are not amazing. They have lots of issues. But it's hard to beat free healthcare. You see kind of like the trade-off I'm talking about? And some people, you might be like, oh, well, Corporal Church, he's the commie. He wants free health care for everybody. I'm like, we're not going to get into that or anything. I'm just like, hey, like that's a great perk to have, is when you get out, everything that was busted while you're in is covered for life. And if you retire, you might get just like free VA care for life, no matter what your injury is. And I'd be curious if someone knows the answer to that question, because that's something that was taking me way too long to find on the internet, and so I actually don't know. If you retire, do you get full medical for life past retirement? I have no clue. So that's a question you can ask. Like, hey there, recruiter, if I retire, What's medical stuff look like for me? Some other questions you would want to ask are job options. You need to ask yourself, is the job or the branch more important to me? Because certain jobs will have certain number of applicants that can take that job for each fiscal year, and so there's a chance, depending upon what job you want, you might have to wait, or you could pick another job. Some people will be like, no, I just want to be in the branch, and so like they'll just join the branch with whatever. Some people really want the job, and so if the job's open in a different branch that fits their timeline, then they might switch to a different branch. Intel jobs are pretty common for that, especially because the Air Force has a lot of intelligence, and folks will try to hop into Army and Marines with it because they also have intelligence, as well as Navy, I think. So that's something you should think about. Is the branch, what's more important, the branch or the job? Something you should be aware of is if you go to a Marine recruiter, they will try to sell you really, really, really hard on the branch. Other branches, it's pretty common to have re-enlistment bonuses and other incentives for you to join in a specific job or to keep staying in a specific job. Marines don't do that. Marines will really sell you on, you should want to be a Marine because we are the best, blah, 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 blah. Just be a Marine, don't be a bitch. That's kind of more or less the vibe from recruiters when I was going in. And I fell for it. You know what? It's worked out pretty okay for me. So I'm not trying to say you shouldn't talk about Marines. It's just part of something you should be considering when you're considering is it the branch or the job, and then when you're considering what branch, if the branch is more important to you. Let's see here. What are some other good questions that you could ask? You should definitely look up on the internet and see the pay scale. You can just type in enlisted United States military enlisted pay scale, and it'll tell you exactly how many years in each rank it paid what. And so you will know, oh look, I would probably make this much by the time I get to the end of my first enlistment. Or, oh, I want to make this little during boot camp. So you can look up your exact pay and figure it all out ahead of time. And especially if money is a huge factor for you, then I would consider you do that. You should definitely ask questions about how often do you relocate, how does moving work. Like if I was to get orders from one station and all the way across the country, or even overseas to a permanent duty station like Okinawa or Hawaii, like how does the moving work? Because you will get moved, and they do things to help you out with the move, and that would take a while to get into as well. So you should be asking questions about that, because odds are you will go through at least one move even if you only do one enlistment, because you'll go to boot camp, MOS school, and then your duty station, and so you could have a couple of moves in the first year of being in. Something else you should ask, and this is more about if you have a girlfriend and you're in some sort of a serious relationship, would be how does this work with if I was to get married, if I am married, if I have kids. Like how does all this stuff work? What are school systems like? Because the military Department of Defense does have its own school system that is available at least in, I think it was like 7 states or something like that. So those are some other questions you guys should be asking. If separation from family, you can ask questions about leave, like how often do I get leave? Do I get to pick when I get to take leave? How quickly do I acquire paid time off? Are people allowed to come visit me on a base? Which the answer is yes. My family came out to San Diego for Christmas 1 or 2 years, and they loved it because they weren't in Iowa. So those are some questions you can also ask if you are trying to encourage your significant other, loved one, whatever, that's thinking about joining or is joining. I would really stress making sure they understand all of their benefits, ways they can lose those benefits, because there are ways. If you either get other than honorable, you have less of a percentage of a GI Bill than you do if you get honorable. And if you get dishonorable discharge, to my understanding, you don't get a GI Bill and you lose lots of those benefits. And believe me, it's not that hard to get an honorable discharge. Basically, don't do something illegal, but you'll get an honorable discharge. You do something illegal, like sexual assault or drunk drinking and driving, there's a chance that you will get something like other than honorable or lower. Again, that'd be way too detailed to get into, and those are just something you should ask a recruiter about. Would be like, how many years do I have to be in before I get a GI Bill? How many years do I have to be in before, if I don't want to use my GI Bill, can my dependents use my GI Bill? Which is another benefit I don't know if many people know about. You don't have to use your GI Bill yourself. If you're in long enough, dependents of yours can use your GI Bill. Anyway, so I would just kind of encourage you guys just to as we're wrapping up this video here. So some questions to ask. Make sure you ask some questions about benefits, questions about pay, questions about promotion, questions about job training for life after the military, because it'll happen eventually, either after one enlistment or a full lifelong career. And just be as knowledgeable as you possibly can. And keep in mind, y'all, the military is a great, great, great career. I hate and a little sad that people seem to think the military is a bad option and that only saps or dummies or whatever negative term you can think of join the military. It works out really well for a lot of people, and it helps out a full lifetime of experience, as well as, some money. Just if you get a little hurt, you might get a little bit of money for the rest of your life. Alright, y'all, if you got any more questions or topics that you would like me to cover, or anything you would like to add informationally to this video, please comment down below. I'll do my best to get to all of them. Any comments you may have would be greatly appreciated. And I just also really thank you guys all so much for taking the time to watch this video. I know it's a little over 20 minutes long, so thank you all so much for taking the time to watch. I am Corporal Church. Please click the like button and subscribe, and I will see you guys later.